가져가지 인간이 회담 שהכל נהיה בדברי. חיים לברכה. Good morning, folks, and welcome our daily Chassidus class, our daily learning early in the morning. Continuing with the Mimer, the Chassidic discourse, Pada V'Shalom, being redeemed in peace. So we went through a deep, profound idea that even before we do our divine service, God already has pleasure. Before we got up early this morning, before we're here and learning together, God knew about it because past, present, and future are the same before Him. Now we can't fathom that exactly. So that the fact that the world stands on three things, on Torah study, acts of loving kindness, and prayer. The point that that Rebbe wants to make over here, it's really kind of embedded already in creation. You know, if you don't believe in God and that He is the creator, so then, humanity came along the way. Even in Torah, Adam was only created on the sixth day. So there's a world before that. There's a nature of the world. So would you say that, what's going on in the Middle East or a tsunami in Thailand and where was it? Excuse me, in Thailand, Indonesia? Like, what's that got to do with anything? Nature. God created a nature of the world. And that's what it is. Okay, so we evolved, and now acts of loving kindness and study of Torah, wonderful things. But to say it's in the fabric of the DNA of creation? Well, that's what saying. That everything, we should know that everything comes from us. Not just in this world, but in the spiritual world. It's all pending on us. Yeah, but nature is nature. No. Nature is something God created. Nature is something God created. And what He put into the fabric of the world is that everything is pending on us, on the three pillars of the world: Torah study, acts of loving kindness, and prayer. Just as a parent has an indelible image of their child in them and how important they are to them, so likewise God has an indelible mark of us. Not after He made us, though, because past, present, and future is not a limitation of His. So before I came into this world, and before I'm doing what I'm doing right now, make it personal, and that's what we should all do. Make it personal for yourself. This is already indelible mark in God's mind. Right? And that it is, you know, of of what only I'm doing right now, but it was already there before, meaning it's there before creation, and that for God is what makes it a pillar of creation. So even though in our timeline it came after creation, after nature was set in, but God makes it as part of the DNA of this world. A very powerful idea. So the fact that the world stands on this is not something um, like an added to the world. No, part of the DNA. Now, nonetheless, that being said, the fact that right now I'm learning, right now you're learning, right? That's greater that's greater than the fact that before God, um, that indelible mark is already there. You know, before we sat down here to learn, it is greater. Now, how do we understand that? Why should that be? No, I don't know what my kid will do until they do it. But God knows what I will do before I do it. So I don't know what kind of indelible mark is going to be made in my mind about, the value of what my child will do. But God, it's already there. That being said, there's still something greater about the fact that I did it. Hey, I'm actually here. I'm actually learning. How do you understand that? Like, so we explained. Give me 1 second, need some air here. So we explain, based on the verse that we say every day in davening, that God says his word to Jacob, which is Jewish people, of course, and he gives over his statutory law and ordinances to Israel, the Jewish people. I mean that it's his. So what that means is two ways to understand that. First way is, as a good parent doesn't give over something to their child that they don't do, right? You tell your child, you shouldn't speak Lashon Hara. You shouldn't speak ill about another. I don't mean about Hamas. I don't mean about wicked, you know. Right. So don't speak ill. And you go and speak something negative about your neighbor, right? Meaning, do as I say, not do as I do. Now, God says, do as I do. I put on tefillin, you put on tefillin. God's tefillin are not physical tefillin, right? God's tefillin are not. God's tefillin are not physical tefillin. Ours are. God gives charity. He doesn't take a coin, but he gives charity. That's an easier one, right? In any case, and therefore he tells us to do that which is important to him, because you tell your child what's important to you, right? That's one of the reasons there, parenthetically, while there will not be peace in the Middle East until parents teach their children not to hate a Jew. As a matter of fact, not to hate anybody that's not Muslim. It's really the truth, right? There won't be peace because you teach your children what's important to you. So what's important to God is tefillin. So he puts on tefillin. There's a 13-year-old boy when he becomes bar mitzvah, so he studies about what it means that God puts on tefillin. What's the concept? Obviously, it's not in physical, right? And so on. So he does all 613 commandments. He commands us to do it. That's the first explanation of what that means. The second explanation is it's the opposite. God puts on tefillin because we put on tefillin. God is charitable because we are charitable. We are greater in our doing. The first one, God does, right? And then we do because of him. The second one is the opposite. We do it, and that causes him to do it. Oh, right. That's a pretty powerful idea. So what's the difference? The first one is what we call an esrusa de la'ela. It's an awakening, an arousal from above. In other words, God does it. From above means um, from the divine perspective, that's above. And then we down here are affected by that. And we reflect the divine up there. Oh, God puts on tefillin, so I'll put on tefillin too. Oh, God, doesn't speak lashon hara. Okay, I won't speak lashon hara, right? Now it's the other way around. The second explanation of what that verse means is that it's an awakening from below, meaning you, me, and you. Again, let's make it personal. That arouses the divine. Oh, we're affecting. Oh, no, that everything above is from you, right? As we mentioned. So we're causing God to do the mitzvah. Now, the fact that we're causing God to do the mitzvah through the fact that we do the mitzvah is greater than the mitzvah that God does on his own. That's pretty novel. You would think the opposite, right? In other words, his mitzvah that he does, because it's dear to him, it's what he wants, therefore that's what he does. You would think, oh, well, that's God's thing. That's lesser than the fact that I put on my tefillin, I give charity, I study Torah, right? Causing God to do the same. That is greater. That is similar to the idea. That is similar to the idea that before I sat and learned here now, right? And that that in actuality, I'm studying right now, as opposed to before I studied, God, past, present, and future were, there's no limitation, and therefore that already existed in God, so as it were. And the fact that I now do it in actuality is greater than the fact that it was there above, already done. Above it was done, but up down here below. In actuality, that's greater. So that's similar to that in actuality, I do the mitzvah, which causes then God to do the mitzvah. That's even greater. Which is, think about that. That's the effect that we have. That's the power that God grants us. We're not just an evolution from the animal kingdom, right? And that, oh, we also do kindness like animals do. Oh, we also, have some intelligence and use it like animals do. Ah, you could choose that side of the family. I ain't choosing it. This is extremely divine. Quite powerful. To think that I'm causing above that God Almighty through my mitzvah. It's one thing to think that, I mean, the truth is, it's one thing to think that our mitzvah affects in this world, but it affects above. All this we can see how that it's part of the DNA of creation. It was already there above because before God there is no past, present, and future, and He creates the world for that. And the fact that it is actualized is, even greater than the fact that it was there in potential, if you will. Here we're realizing potential. Up there, we can't say that potential is not realized because that means there's something lacking. That being said, at the same time, there's something greater, the fact that, in actuality, we did it down here, so much so that it's affecting up there. Wow. All right, folks, we'll see you soon by Chumash Rashi. As always, thank you for being